welcome to the Animation Podcast, a weekly podcast about all things animation brought to you by Filmbook. My name is Matt Brunet, but some of you may know me as Animat from my YouTube channel, Electric Dragon 505, home of web series that are all about animation, including Animation Look Back and Animat's Reviews. If this is your first time here in the Animation Podcast, the title will go and explain everything for you. Welcome to the Animation Podcast. I think that is self-explanatory. I mean, if you cannot understand what this podcast is about when I say it's the Animation Podcast, what the fridge are you even doing here? But anyway, specifically, what I shall be discussing will be about the news this week. I will start things off with looking into something that happened with The Croods 2. Then we will be looking into the dark side of Nickelodeon, and I mean business-wise, I don't mean like TV shows and stuff like that. Then afterwards, we will be looking into the comeback of Young Justice. And then afterwards, we will be looking into a series that is based on an Oscar-nominated short, and then finally we have Matt's Pick of the Week. If you want to check out more episodes of the Animation Podcast, just head on down to Filmbook, that is film-book.com, by searching the Animation Podcast. You can also email us at podcast@filmbook.com with the Animation Podcast in the subject line. So, first things first, we shall be looking into The Croods. And as we may know, The Croods seems to be what DreamWorks wants to go and create their new franchise, basically. They want this to be their next big animated property next to, like, Shrek, Madagascar, Kung Fu Panda, and How to Train Your Dragon. And they're already starting to set things up a bit. The movie has already been released, and, well, way back in 2013, and it actually did pretty well. It made $587 million total at the box office, which is actually pretty good, and actually, even by DreamWorks standards, is actually quite impressive. But also, they have released the animated series Dawn of the Croods, and as we may know, coming soon there is going to be a Croods 2, in which they have scheduled to have a 2018 release. Well, that ain't gonna happen anymore, because apparently they canceled it. Yep, the news is apparently that DreamWorks Animation and Universal Studios both agreed that they are going to cancel The Croods 2. Going into my source here, going into Variety.com, it stated, Universal Pictures chairman Donna Langley met with workers at DreamWorks Animation's Glendale headquarters Thursday to confirm that production on The Croods 2 was being stopped immediately. Some 30 employees who have been working on the film, launched 3.5 years ago, will be looking for new jobs. However, it does sound a bit bad, and like I might have a little bit of a sympathy for those 30 employees, but there is a little bit of a bright side to it. The workers were told DreamWorks Animation hopes to keep them at the company. Some could be shifted to other film projects, while others might be put into training or artistic development programs, according to an individual at Universal who was asked not to be named. However, with this case that The Croods 2 is not going well, there is actually a bit of a sign that the production hasn't been going pretty smoothly, even though they did not state what actually went wrong, like the specific reason why they had to cancel it, like what is it that isn't going right during production. Nothing is actually clarified. It has already, like, the only thing that it stated, it's at the end of this Variety article, trouble was already evident in August when the companies announced that an expected 2017 release would be pushed back into 2018. And that was actually a key factor, because I remember originally The Croods 2 was supposed to be released somewhere on Christmas 2017, but then they stated that it was going to be pushed in 2018. But the big catch was that they did not put in a specific release date. They just said 2018. They didn't say like either March or April or anything like that. It was just that year and that's it. However, for those of you who are a little bit disappointed that it wouldn't get released, or like pretty much the whole production got canceled. Fear not, because the thing is, just because The Croods 2 is canceled now doesn't mean that there will never ever be a Croods 2. There are no near-term plans to bring back the prehistoric family, but said the source at Universal, The Croods is still very much in the DreamWorks catalog. It's not unheard of that it might be something someone takes a look at in the future. So even though the Croods 2 that we have now isn't going to work out, maybe in the future we will see that there could be there'll eventually be a Croods 2. But at this point, we're not going to see it in this decade. That's a fact. If DreamWorks ever brings back the Croods 2, I can imagine that they would give it a release date of somewhere in the 2020s per se. That's all that I am seeing. But if I may put my piece onto this news that apparently they're canceling the Croods 2, honestly, at least for me, I'm not necessarily that sad or disappointed that there's not going to be a Croods 2, because honestly, I remember watching the Croods back in 2013, and, I would say it's decent. It's not the best DreamWorks film, but it wasn't the worst either. I've seen a lot worse. In fact, some of their more recent film, a lot of the recent films that came out after the Croods 2, they were a lot worse. Honestly, I would take the Croods over movies like Turbo, Home, or even just recently the Trolls came out, and honestly, even that movie wasn't as good as the Croods. And the thing is with that movie is that, yes, the animation is beautiful. This is where you see the Chris Sanders style really coming to life with the numerous of creatures and the beautiful backgrounds. It is visually pleasing, hands down. But writing-wise, it is a little bit weak. I mean, you got the prehistoric family, and it is they're just going through the generic story of going from point A to point B, while the dad is kind of the jealous type to the new guy or something like that. And especially with the humor, it's very juvenile per se. The kind of tone, because it wants to do these little silly slapstick style humor, I feel like it's on that end where the movie is geared more towards kids than it is for families in general. So that's why I feel the loss of a Croods 2 is not necessarily as bad. But I will say that, I did think about it, I look back into the whole, chronicle that DreamWorks has, everything that they have been releasing. And because that the Croods 2 is canceled, I'm not worried about the Croods, because technically they still have that Netflix series going on, and I don't know necessarily about Netflix or how TV shows based on movies work. I don't really see them get that much popular than some of the more recent stuff, like either Steven Universe or The Loud House or Adventure Time or anything like that. The thing is that what does make me worried is not necessarily the Croods franchise, but more DreamWorks Animation itself. Because when you do think about it, the last time that DreamWorks actually released a movie that was a massive franchise starter was How to Train Your Dragon. And that was all the way back to 2010. So when you do think about it, throughout those, during all these, 6 years now after How to Train Your Dragon, they still have yet to release anything that would be a massive franchise starter. Yes, there are some sequels that were released, from Madagascar and Kung Fu Panda, sure, but there's nothing that really, they didn't release a movie in which really spun off a lot of projects, including a movie sequel. They did release movies based on they released Netflix series based on some of their movies, even if they flopped, Mr. Peabody and Sherman, Turbo, and all that kind of stuff. They would release those, but they have yet to release something they didn't do anything that would turn into a major franchise where you would see sequels coming out. Like, there is no Rise of the Guardians 2. There is no Mr. Peabody and Sherman 2. There is no Turbo 2. I mean, the most that I can think of now, and honestly, I highly doubt that this would become a major franchise, like, the one that does have the most potential at this point would be what recently has been released is Trolls. Because I was, like, even though I'm not necessarily fond of it, like I'll admit, like my thoughts on Croods, like, the animation is fantastic, but the writing is a bit of a joke. Like, it really is pretty bad, and plus the fact that, like, they really try to be modern and cool and hip with it, you know, it is a little bit of a turnoff. And even movies like the Care Bears movie or A Troll in Central Park is much more enjoyable than that. I'm actually pretty surprised to see that there is a fan base going on, and it actually is gathering it's actually performing pretty decently at the box office. So who knows? Maybe that could be the next one that DreamWorks could actually turn into a franchise. And this is not to mention not just the movie's performance alone, but also in terms of merchandising, since Trolls is actually based on the Thomas Dam dolls. Like, there's already that huge potential in terms of marketing and releasing toys, and that power of collectability. Like, in a way, some people can argue that DreamWorks Trolls is kind of like their answer to Sony's Smurfs. Like, that's mostly the thing. That's the way that I see it. So that's why in the future it wouldn't necessarily surprise me that there could be a Trolls 2, but that's going to be up to DreamWorks and Universal to see if that's actually going to happen. But with that said, not only am I worried because it's been a while since they've really had a new franchise starter, but there's also the fact that I am starting to hear rumors that apparently DreamWorks is going to really downsize themselves again. I'm not going to say anything official about it, but from what I've heard, and this has actually been posted on Cartoon Brew, that apparently they could consider closing down their India division, where in India, it's kind of like a helping hand in a way, where they would help out, do some of the animation for some of their films just to make production go faster. They do have a list of some of the movies that they've done, like Puss in Boots, Penguins of Madagascar, Kung Fu Panda 3, Trolls, and the upcoming Boss Baby. And with that said, even though it might not sound that it doesn't sound that bad that DreamWorks is could possibly close down their India division, what does make it bad is that because they would do that, what rumors are saying is that this would also connect onto what would potentially lead to DreamWorks really downsizing how they would release their animated features, where they might end up going down to just releasing one animated feature a year. And what's even worse is that they might even have to delay or just switch the release dates again of How to Train Your Dragon 3. And that's actually another factor that does actually worry me. It's How to Train Your Dragon 3. I mean, if you can ask anybody in the animation community, they will tell you that their most anticipated DreamWorks film is undoubtedly How to Train Your Dragon 3, hands down. But that is another one, much like The Croods 2, where it's been getting delays and there could possibly be some production trouble going on. And the worst case scenario, it might actually meet the same fate as The Croods 2, and it could shut down. Now, luckily, this might not really be the case because How to Train Your Dragon 3 does have a fixed release date. Last I checked, it was on May 2018. So maybe things are going well with that, and if DreamWorks is wise, they would still do their best in order to fully create How to Train Your Dragon 3. So who knows what's going to happen on that front, but yeah, that's kind of the dangerous scenario that we do have. Like, if the rumors of DreamWorks India closing down could actually be true, then it might mean serious trouble to DreamWorks Animation, and things might not be looking well. And like the worst thing that could potentially happen would be something that I've always feared since Comcast purchased DreamWorks Animation, that the big company is just going to use DreamWorks just for the properties alone and not really use it as a studio. So who knows what's going to happen with the Croods, and so far I'm just hoping for the best for DreamWorks Animation. Hopefully it will still remain calm and it'll still be a good functioning animation studio. Even though, yes, they lost the Croods too, and they kind of lost their chance of opening up a new big franchise. For now, let's just hope for the best to see if DreamWorks can still survive, or at the very least to see if they can manage to stay up as an animation studio and, you know, not end up just being like a property farm just for Universal. But yeah, so there's no longer going to be a Croods 2, but let's just move forward and see what else DreamWorks Animation has for us. Now, going into our next story, we're going to jump from one studio that kind of has problems to another that really does have a lot of problems. And on top of that, we are also jumping from movies to television, going from DreamWorks Animation onto Nickelodeon. And things are starting to really look bad in there. And what I'm trying to say is actually regarding C.H. Greenblatt, the creator of Harvey Beaks, revealing a lot of pretty bad things going on Cartoon Network. And the way that they're running it, it's really bad, and it's really giving them a pretty bad reputation, per se. Now, what I'm trying to say is that apparently on Tumblr, C.H. Greenblatt actually opened up a lot of stuff. Now, apparently, just to give you a bit of a backstory, he did actually reveal that, it was last year, that he was mad at Nickelodeon over how his series was pretty much treated. But then he went onto the website, he went onto Cartoon Brew, and he openly he pretty much opened up saying that, oh, you know, there's nothing bad going on with me and the network. It's all good. It's all my fault. And, you know, like pretty much sending out this apology to try to fix things up a bit. But, however, recently this week, he opened up that the little apology that he made, that was actually forced upon by Nickelodeon. Going into my source here, going into Cartoon Brew, where would it be? Okay, well, I'll start off over here. This is an article by Amit Amidi, by the way. My comments subsequently led, or I'll start over here then. In July 2015, Cartoon Brew reported that Harvey Beaks creator C.H. Greenblatt was not happy with Nickelodeon's treatment of his series. Our source comments that Greenblatt himself has written on his Tumblr. I also added a bit of my own commentary based on similar gripes that other Nick employees have shared with me, suggesting that the network doesn't respect creators or do enough to ensure the success of their shows. My comments subsequently led to Greenblatt posting a comment that claimed that everything was cool at Nick and his frustrations were not a knock on the network in general. Yesterday, however, in response to a fan's question on Tumblr about the article, Greenblatt admitted that these defense on Nick has been written on Cartoon Brew had been squeezed out of him by network higher-ups. That defense was forced, he wrote. I was taken into office, given a stern lecture, and told I had to go to Cartoon Brew and write a reply. Now, you might be wondering, like, what is going on? Why was he forced to go and do that apology? Now, the thing is that, apparently what was going on is that when he was working with when he was working on Harvey Beaks, Greenblatt was pretty much pissed off at Nickelodeon over the fact that they're not promoting his show enough. They're not doing as much as they can in order to give Harvey Beaks as much attention, you know, to treat it like an actual TV show. And, like, he would even go off warning others that if you want to go and create a TV show on Nickelodeon, he would just warn them by saying that they have a really bad track record. And apparently the way that he knew that Harvey Beaks ended up being canceled was pretty much at the same time that everyone else knew, because Nickelodeon, without asking his permission, just moved Harvey Beaks onto Nicktoons and pretty much let the show off from there. And that's pretty much it. However, on this article, Amit Amidi and like many others who work on Nickelodeon did state that the real problem with Nickelodeon is not the studio itself. It's not where they actually make the TV show at Nickelodeon Animation Studios. That's not the real problem. The real problem actually lies on the network. Let me go back into the article here. It says, it should be noted that Greenblatt's issues seem to largely be with Nickelodeon, the network, not Nickelodeon, the animation studio. Though they are both owned by Viacom and work together, they still operate on different wavelengths. Of the studio, he writes, my time at Nick has been excellent. As a studio, they've been creatively supportive. I've worked with amazing people. They let me make the show I wanted with little compromise. I couldn't have been. I couldn't have had a better experience. And continuing here, and this is actually the one that really highlighted well, is that Greenblatt's issues with Nick stems from how the network treated the show after it was made. He cites a startling fact that makes it quite clear why Harvey Beaks has been unable to compete with Nick's biggest hit, SpongeBob SquarePants. Nick will have aired Harvey just barely over 15 hours total from all of 2016. They run a lot more than 15 hours of SpongeBob each week and expect us to compete with a global phenomenon show that's 18 years old. Honestly, if I ran a network that way, I would be ashamed and disgusted with myself. And let me just start off by saying that, like, even though I would joke around about Amit Amidi, this is more the side of him that I want to see more of. This is the thing that makes Cartoon Brew, like, well respected, and why people always go onto Cartoon Brew to get your animation stories. This is the Amit Amidi or the Cartoon Brew I want to see more of, okay? So, Amit, get to work on this. Is the more that I want to see of. None of the egotistical crap. Just give us more of this. Be straightforward. Give us the news, and just show a little bit of a defense and support to the artists and the people working on animation. Even if it's the people that you might not like John Lasseter and some of the higher ups, at least show the support, you know? That's all I'm saying. I'm liking this side. I'm liking this side of you, Amit. All right, but anyways, going back onto what's going on here. There is an additional thing that I would like to add, and this is coming into the comments section, which is actually something that is very interesting to read. And this is from a commenter called Dumpster Fire. He or she actually stated, I spent some time at NAS, which I'll say that because that's Nickelodeon Animation Studios. And I'll agree with Carl's sentiments. NAS is a great place to work, but Nickelodeon, the network, or New York as it's commonly referred to around the studio, being that it's mostly stationed in New York City and not Burbank, California, is a completely different beast. New York has little to no patience or interest in properly promoting anything. No one knew when anything was going on air, and they rushed to air content when there was only a handful of episodes ready to go, leading to broken small bursts of new shows. The only thing I've seen New York handle with some consideration in recent history is Loud House. New York also laid down a terrible policy, one that from my knowledge had been used by Comedy Central and MTV, that all shows would get only 2 seasons unless they were a hit. That 2 seasons policy has been in play for around 2 years, maybe 3. It started when the now former and quickly dethroned Russell Hicks was running the studio. That policy really rubbed a lot of artists in the wrong way, given that so many shows need more than 2 seasons just to start to get good and find a fan base. New York also struggled with air times, constantly flopping around with what airs when, trying to turn Sunday evenings into a thing, piss poor concepts like that. attempting to dance around the programming blocks of Cartoon Network and Disney instead of having confidence and airing against them. Very messy. But NAS, good people, good environment, lots of creative freedom. Too bad New York can't be more in line with what NAS is creating, but I think people at the studio are hopeful for the future. And it's actually pretty interesting, and I think it really does say a lot about Nickelodeon and why they're not as strong of a cartoon channel than other ones like Disney or Cartoon Network, is mostly because they have way too high of expectations for many of the new shows. It's like what they stated in here. It's because they, like, the executives, they're expecting to find the next SpongeBob SquarePants ASAP. And when you look back into the history of Nickelodeon in recent years, it's been such a while that they have actually released like a show that really got popular and got a lot of fans pumped up, as much as something like Adventure Time or Steven Universe. Like, technically the last one I could think of is probably The Legend of Korra, but even at that, I wouldn't really count that because that technically is a spin-off to a TV show on Nickelodeon that was already really popular, so the fan base was already there. So that doesn't necessarily count as anything that's new and exciting that Nickelodeon actually made. I mean, technically nowadays, there is the Loud House, but that's pretty much the only thing that's bringing in audiences. That's pretty much it. And plus the fact that, like, they're still running to the ground many of the other series that they have, like SpongeBob SquarePants and Fairly Odd Parents. But, you know, like, even at that, things are going downhill with those shows, and like the only things that people want to look back with those series is just like some of the older episodes. I mean, like, even with me, the only thing I would be interested in buying in terms of like SpongeBob episodes is that big DVD case of the first 100 episodes. Literally, that's it. And with that said, like, going into this, I feel like the biggest reason why Nickelodeon is failing is mostly because of the network. It's mostly their mentality. Like, the way that the network executives are thinking, they kind of have this brain set that's a lot like J.G. Wentworth, where they're just going to poke out their heads out the window and yell at their employees, "It's my money and I need it now." You know, like they kind of have that kind of mentality. And really, if you are expecting something to be the next SpongeBob SquarePants, that you got to give it time. And unfortunately, they don't have the patience for it. And that's why they haven't released anything that would be the next SpongeBob SquarePants. It's pretty much like they are their own worst enemy. They're incapable of releasing the next SpongeBob SquarePants because they keep on demanding the next SpongeBob SquarePants. They want the shows to immediately just be big, to immediately have the same kind of numbers as SpongeBob, but they're not even giving it the same treatment as SpongeBob. And that seems to be the big problem, because Nickelodeon has a bit of a favoritism in a way where all they want to do is give more attention to the really popular shows and not even give a chance to the regular shows. And that is a major issue. Like, I understand in the short, like in terms of the short run, that it can be profitable if you mostly show SpongeBob all the time. But in terms of like releasing new shows and like feeding it with something new, it's honestly really bad. And that really is a massive problem. Like, I really am glad that at least the animation studio, the place where they actually make the shows, it's a great place. You know, it really is a nice place to work at. Everybody's enjoying it. You know, and they have almost all the creative freedom they want. It's just that they kind of got this really big obstacle. And honestly, like, having these two, like, as a separate division where, like, you kind of have the TV show where you got the studio and the network working in separate ways, I feel like that really is hurting. If Nickelodeon really wants to improve upon themselves, like, they got to bring it together. At least either bring the animation studio onto New York with the network, or bring the network with the animation studio in Burbank, California. That's the only way that I could see that it can work. Otherwise, Nickelodeon is just really going downhill, and a lot of people just see Nickelodeon as a joke. Like, in terms of TV animation, like, people don't think highly of Nickelodeon, unfortunately, except like when you think back of like the old days of Nicktoons with Rugrats and Ren and Stimpy and Rocko's Modern Life. So yeah, like, this actually does say a lot about Nickelodeon and how they run their business. And honestly, yeah, I don't really see like if they keep running like this, I don't really see much of a future or much of a point to go on Nickelodeon. Now, for our next story, we are going to be jumping from how not to run a TV network, and we're going to jump onto how to, yes, run a TV show. And what I'm going to be talking about is Young Justice, which that one has gathered a huge following. A lot of people really do enjoy it, and many people could say that it's one of the best TV shows based on a DC property since Teen Titans during the mid-2000s. But unfortunately, the TV show is actually pretty short-lived. It only had a total of 2 seasons until 2013, when Cartoon Network ultimately decided to cancel it. Well, guess what? Apparently, it's not over for Young Justice, as it's actually coming back. Going into my source here on TV Line, it actually stated, production on Season 3 of the animated series about a Justice League-like squad of teenage DC comic superheroes like Robin, Superboy, and Kid Flash is already underway from Warner Brothers Animation. No network has signed on to air the revival yet. Cartoon Network axed the original run in 2013, but Netflix has been rumored as a possible destination since the first 2 seasons of Young Justice are already available on the streaming service. And, actually, let me go and take this source here. Coming from Warner Brothers Animation president Sam Register, this affection that fans have had for Young Justice and their rallying cry for more episodes has always resonated with us. We are excited to bring the show back for this loyal fan base and to provide an opportunity for new viewers to discover this excellent series. And yes, by the way, if you are curious, the creators of the show, Brandon Vietti and Greg Wiseman, will also be returning onto Young Justice. And to give you guys a little bit of a background, believe it or not, like, if you are curious about the legitimacy of Young Justice, not only does it have a huge following, but this is actually considered an Emmy Award winning series. This actually did win an Emmy Award for individual achievement in animation back onto 2011. And I find it to be a little bit coincidental for me, the fact that Young Justice is actually coming back, because not too long ago, I actually released my review of another show that was created by one of the show's creators, Greg Wiseman, The Spectacular Spider-Man. And even I have to admit, that was actually really good, and it could arguably be the best interpretation of Spider-Man that I've seen. Like, even more than even a better interpretation than the movies has done, both the Sam Raimi and the crappy Amazing Spider-Man films. It's actually that good. But unfortunately, that one actually got short-lived. Like, that one is actually short-lived as well, much like the fate of Young Justice had. And nowadays, when looking on to, like, if there would be a chance if that show would actually be revived, the chances of that is really slim, mostly because the reason why Spectacular Spider-Man ended up being canceled is actually because it was right in the middle of when Disney bought the rights to Marvel, like, just the entire thing in general. And during that time, Sony Pictures decided to give Marvel back the TV rights of using Spider-Man, the character. However, for some stupid reason, Sony decided that they want to keep the rights to the Spectacular Spider-Man show along with the rights of the character designs. That's pretty much it. Like, they pretty much decided to just keep that. And because now that the rights are in separate hands, it pretty much seems impossible now that the Spectacular Spider-Man would actually be coming back, especially with the fact that, well, Greg Weisman seems to be pretty busy, and that Disney has recently announced that they are going to release a brand new series, kind of like a revival of a Spider-Man series, which is just going to feature Spider-Man with Marvel Spider-Man. However, if there's one thing that DC has over Marvel, is that they got their crap together when it comes to owning the properties, like owning copyright and stuff like that. And because they've always had the rights to Young Justice, they could do whatever they want with it, whether it be just re-air episodes on Cartoon Network or on Netflix or stuff like that, or they could pretty much do like this and revive it. And honestly, this is actually pretty exciting to know, and maybe I am pretty curious to know, like, what Young Justice offers. Because honestly, like, now that I do have a bit of knowledge of, of Greg Weisman and some of his works, I would say that, to be very honest, Greg Weisman is actually a pretty underrated figure when it comes to TV animation, because we're talking about the guy, like, not only is he the guy behind the Spectacular Spider-Man and Young Justice, but this is also the co-creator of Gargoyles. If you guys remember back in the 90s, that Disney animated series, he's like one of the creators of it. And honestly, I'm actually really glad to see that he is getting more work and he's going back doing something that fans really love. And honestly, I'm pretty surprised that, he's not getting as much attention as much as, like, some of the people who came out of, like, Cartoon Network, like Craig McCracken or Van Partible or Genndy Tartakovsky or any of those people, because the dude actually did make a serious impact onto television, and in a great way, by the way. So I'm definitely glad that Greg Weisman is getting more work, just to go out and make some fans really happy, because the dude is capable of making shows that can gather a large following. And, seeing that Young Justice is coming back, and, like, even with some of the friends I talked about it, like, they really are pretty excited to see this return. And it's kind of coincidental, saying, like, when they said, it's like, oh, they need to bring Young Justice coming back. They need to bring Young Justice coming back. Well, guys, come on. It's back now. You got what you asked. So, yeah, regarding a release date, we still don't know when it's going to be out. Like the article said on TV Line, we're not sure if it's either going to be on television or if it's just going to be on Netflix. Who knows? But yeah, this is all to say that Young Justice is going to be making a comeback. Now, for our next story, we are going to be jumping into The Dam Keeper. Now, some of you might be curious, and you might not know what I'm talking about when I say The Dam Keeper. Well, allow me to explain a little bit. The Dam Keeper was this 18-minute animated short that actually did get an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Short, but unfortunately, it didn't win because it lost to Disney's Feast. If you guys remember, that was the animated short before Big Hero 6 with that little dog who just wants to eat everything. However, with that animated short, it was actually created by two animators called Robert Kondo and Dice Tsusumi. They decided to leave Pixar and to go form their own animation studio called Tonko House in order to go and create The Dam Keeper. However, what resulted with The Dam Keeper, apparently it could actually turn into a bigger franchise. One of which being an animated series that would be coming out in Hulu Japan. So, going into my source here on Cartoon Brew, it actually stated, Tonko will produce 10 5-minute episodes centering on the friendship between the main characters from the short Pig and Fox. The series will begin airing on Hulu Japan in the summer of 2017. Hulu Japan is owned by Nippon TV and operates separately from the US-based company, which is in partnership between Disney, 21st Century Fox, NBC Universal, and Time Warner. Eric Oh, who has served as the animation supervisor of the original Dam Keeper short, recently left Pixar, where he was an animator on Monsters University, Inside Out, and Finding Dory, among other films, to join Tonko House. He will direct the series in-house at Tonko's Beverly, California headquarters. Kondo and Susumi will serve as executive producers. Continuing on over here, Susumi explained that while the series is self-contained, it will follow the same core themes as the rest of the Dam Keeper projects, including a feature film currently in development, which is about dealing with the light and dark inside yourself. Oh, who trained as a traditional animator, will make the series as a hand-drawn project. According to Susumi, the series will highlight O's line quality and watercolor style. A promo image that shows the style of the series can be seen on the top of the article. And yes, you actually do see, was it Eriko or yeah, Eric? Like you pretty much see Eriko's style of the characters that he drew on the characters, and it really does stay it does respectively stay into the style of what he brought onto the Dam Keeper on the original Dam Keeper. Continuing on though, I'm very grateful for this opportunity to introduce the Dam Keeper world and the characters to a different storytelling platform, O said. This 10-minute episode TV series focuses on Pig's emotional journey to overcome his fear and emptiness through his friendship with Fox and their friends. My hope is that it will be heartfelt, humorous, and sincere enough to bring laughter and tears to the audience. And let me just say this about the Dam Keeper, because I remember actually seeing this short way back. I think it was during the time, maybe like either the year before on or after, when I made a vow to myself that I would watch every single animated project that got recognized at the Oscars, either it be like a nomination or actually winning an Oscar. And I remember watching the Dam Keeper, and I'm gonna be very honest with you guys, this short should have won the Oscar. Like it actually, like, I feel like this is legitimately better than Feast, honestly. Like, sure, Disney definitely deserved to get that award for Paperman, but not necessarily for Feast. Like, I feel like Dam Keeper was a lot more powerful, not just because it's longer to explain a story, but like it has a really cute and simplistic but very intriguing art style. Like almost, I would say, a bit of a storytelling art style in a sense. There is also like a very unique and creative world that you want to know a bit more, like what are some of the dark secrets that it holds, and very fascinating and lovable characters. You really do get emotional with the feelings of characters like Pig and Fox. But yeah, it really is a fascinating short. It definitely is fantastic. Unfortunately, like the only way that you can get it so far, like the only way that you can legitimately see it is if you go either like on iTunes or something like that, and you have to pretty much pay. But it's only $3, and I gotta say, it definitely is worth it's definitely worth the price. Like I would definitely recommend like just pay the $3 to go check it out. It definitely is worth it, and honestly, it really does make me feel glad that they are exploring more of these characters, expanding upon like what the world of the Dam Keeper is and showing more of the friendship between Pig and Fox. Because the way that I see it, it definitely is intriguing that they are expanding upon an animated series, but also at the same time that they would also do a feature film, and that I'm pretty excited to see like how far they can actually go with that, even though maybe they could be busy with doing the short as well. So who knows when the Dam Keeper movie might actually be released. But on the other hand, though, it is only going to be what seems to be just a Japan exclusive for now. Although I don't like, the way that I see it, though, like, they can easily just bring it into the US or stuff like that, because I remember as well, The Dam Keeper, it doesn't have any dialogue. This is more of a silent short the whole way through. Like, there are no actors playing any of the characters. The only actors you'll find are the animators. And with that, it is a bit disappointing that Japan is going to get it first instead of going into North America, because honestly, I am actually pretty intrigued to see what they could offer with The Dam Keeper. It looks cute. It looks, like I want to see the friendship between Pig and Fox Bloom, and I want to see more of this adventure going on. But yeah, honestly, I definitely do feel excited. I definitely am happy for the people at Tonko House, where they decided to take a big step from quitting Pixar to go and work on something like this. Definitely seems to be worth it. And yeah, like, if ever the day comes when The Dam Keeper, either the series or the movie will actually be released, I'll definitely be there. I'm actually pretty excited to see what they can offer. But yeah, this is just to say, if you guys are living in Japan, or if you actually do have access to Hulu Japan, then get ready for The Dam Keeper to come out in the summer of 2017. And so finally, we now have Matt's Pick of the Week. And for this week, I am not going to talk about a subject that relates to animation, but instead, this is something that affects everybody, and not just in one country, but all around the world. And honestly, I feel very thankful that I have Filmbook, who would give me an opportunity to have something like this where I can freely speak my mind. And at this point, I feel like, even though this is not something that a lot of people want to hear about and they want to be distracted with other subjects, I think it's still very important to go in depth of what's going to happen and know what to do at this point, because I can imagine there are many people out there, especially in the animation community, that feel so lost and they just don't know what to do with themselves. So at this point, I just want to go out and give a helping hand to see what I can do. Like, this is the best that I can try to offer. So the news is, unfortunately, as you guys may have heard, even though it was a very tight race, like, it was absolutely neck to neck, America has apparently chosen Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States for the next 4 years, from 2017 up to 2021, or at least like when he'll officially be president. And even though, yes, half of the United States is pretty much happy that they pretty much decided to let him be president, and they're happy that it actually worked out. But the other half of America and the rest of the world are pretty much in total shock that this actually happened. Like, I've never seen social media and people all around the world that are in complete fear over an event that happened in the United States since the 9/11 disaster. It is that bad. Because here's the thing. I understand that Hillary Clinton is not necessarily a perfect candidate. Like, yeah, there have been a lot better ones, but the thing is with Hillary, she's just your typical bad politician. I mean, that's just politics for you. But with Donald Trump, he has proven himself to be possibly the worst candidate that you can ever imagine. Like, this is a man who truly outspoken himself to fully become this representative of all hatred in general. Like, this is a man who completely disrespects women, completely disrespects the disabled, an absolute racist, an absolute fascist, and someone who clearly is against the LGBT community. Like, this is a man who hates everybody that is not white, that is not male, that is not in perfect condition with his body, that is not straight, and that is not, that's not rich. Like, and also that is not Christian as well. So everybody around the world was pretty much thinking, there is no way that the American people would be so stupid to elect this man to lead America, that his scare tactics to put everybody in fear, the way Donald Trump would say that all Muslims are terrorists, that all Mexicans are rapists, and that he would do whatever, that he would always grab the pussy of women, that he would do all these things. A man who would completely disrespect everyone else that is not him. That America wouldn't be that stupid to put him as president. Yet look what happened. Somehow, the American people proved the rest of the world wrong. And this is what happened. He's now the president of the United States. And the thing is that, I have been frequently outspoken about that I am more against Trump. I wouldn't say that I'm more of a Hillary supporter. I'm more anti-Trump than anything. And often I have been criticized, of course. I mean, I'm on the internet in general. The thing is, like, getting criticism or getting hatred is unavoidable. And many people, would tell me, why do you care? You're Canadian. You talk about animation. This has nothing to do with you. Why don't you mind your own business? I get that a lot. But the people who say that, they seriously doubt the power that America has over everyone else around the world. We are talking about one of the most powerful nations in the world. And of course, this is going to have an effect over everyone else. Even though I'm Canadian, I'm just one step away from America. So of course, this does affect me. And whatever happens with the economy, the fact that it connects to so many different outlets from all around the world, what's going to happen with the economy, whether if it's going to go up or if it's going to go down, for many people, it will heavily depend on what's going to happen with the United States. If he can actually do a good job, or if he ends up with a bad job, it's going to affect us as well. But even though I will say this, that, I do feel a bit thankful that I am a Canadian. Because even though this is not going to affect me, this will absolutely affect, it's not going to affect me as much. This will absolutely affect the rest of the people in America. They are going to be the ones who shall pay the price the most. And the way that I see it, the way that I see what's going to happen in the future of America, at this point, this is because that Trump won, this is also the day that hatred won. I've said this before in the animation podcast that a vote for Trump would be a vote for hate. Well, that's exactly what happened. It was the day that hatred won. It was the day that fascism won, that racism won, that sexism won, that bullies won. That was the day that those people won, and that hatred absolutely won. And because of this, in America, what I can imagine that will happen is that being triggered will be more easy than it ever was before. That I can guarantee you it. And that could be something that could also affect globally. Something that wouldn't necessarily matter, they're going to go absolutely ballistic. Even for me, I'm just someone who would, one of the things that I do online is that I review animated films on YouTube. If there's something that they disagree with, they're going to go ballistic. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm going to see a lot more people that they're going to let out all their emotions and they're going to be absolutely raging in the comment section. In fact, the comment section will end up becoming a giant battleground. No matter how you feel about the situation, it could be something as small as liking or not liking a movie. And sadly, it wouldn't even surprise me that controversies like what happened with the 2016 Ghostbusters reboot, it's going to happen again. This might not be the first time we'll experience this, that we're going to see two groups of people completely fighting each other online, or even outside of online, in real life. They're going to fight each other to the point that they're just going to make a huge mountain out of a molehill when, like, it's just a movie, you know? And the only people that are going to pay is going to be the studios. Like, what happened with Ghostbusters? The one that ultimately lost was Sony. They lost like more than $70 million because of what happened with Ghostbusters, because it ended up as a flop at the box office. And with that said, now this is just what's going to happen online. Now, it could be possible that people are going to be easily triggered. They're going to be a lot more outspoken about how they feel and, just let out even some things that are not necessarily nice, like racism, bigotry, sexism, and all that kind of stuff. They're like the masks are pretty much off. But at the same time, outside of the internet, I can imagine that in America, there's going to be a lot more activists, a lot more people. They're going to fight for their rights. Because the thing is, during the election, Donald Trump has threatened so many people. He has threatened just the rights of so many individuals just for who they are. He threatened the rights to immigrants, to Muslims, to women, to the LGBT community, to so many of these people. And that's why you're going to see a lot more activists that are going to be on the rise, and they will be very, very active. It wouldn't surprise me if it could happen on a regular basis. I can imagine that there are going to be women out there that, they're going to fight for women's rights. We're going to see a major rise in Black Lives Matter. We are going to see, the LGBT community try to hold on to their dear life, to what they've recently gotten, that the whole nation can finally be allowed to be married to whoever they are. They're going to hold on tight to that and make sure the new government isn't going to just suddenly take that away. Like, all these things, women's rights, immigrants' rights, Muslims' rights, the LGBT community's rights, everybody's rights is going to be in danger. And that's why we are going to see so many things that are going to happen. We are going to see activism on the rise. In fact, honestly, the one thing that wouldn't surprise me is that we might actually see V for Vendetta possibly coming to life. I mean, instead of being in the UK, it's going to happen in the US. That's the level of activism that we are going to see. People who are going to fight for their lives, to fight against the government in order to maintain the rights of being an individual. That it's not just going to be white, Christian, straight males that are going to get all the privileges that they want. They want to have an equal share. That, I can imagine, is what's going to happen. And honestly, with Trump becoming president, it would not surprise me at all if we are going to see some really bad disasters. I mean, like I said before, nobody would ever think that Donald Trump would actually become president. But now that it did happen, who knows what's going to happen next? I mean, with the way that he won by bringing fear upon half of an entire nation, who knows what he's going to do next? Are we going to see a second Great Depression because, he's going to screw up so bad financially and put America in such debt that it's going to affect everybody around the world and jobs are going to be pretty scarce? Maybe. Are we going to see a third world war where Donald Trump is going to declare so many of these different wars, but so many countries are going to unite to fight against America in the same way that in the last World War that all the nations got together to fight against Germany? Maybe. Or are we even going to see a second civil war where Americans are going to fight against other Americans and the rest of America is just going to be this giant war ground? Maybe. Who knows what's going to happen? But I will say this. No matter what the outcome shall be, no matter what's going to happen in the US, I just want to mention this to all the people in America. No matter what happens, you chose this to happen. You chose Donald Trump to be president. And no matter what the outcome will be, it's easy to blame Donald Trump for what's going to happen. I mean, like, yeah, and he'll be responsible for the disasters that could potentially happen just by his stupid decisions. But the number one person to blame is you, because you are the one that let him be in the office, and you chose him to go out and make all these important decisions to lead the country. You chose him to be the leader of your country, to be the representative of who America is. You chose to have fascism, to have sexism, to have racism, to have homophobia, and to have bullies be the representative of America. And that's kind of the image that you're pretty much bringing to the rest of the world. That's why every single other country is looking down upon America. That's why they're disregarding them. That's why they're making fun of you. Because apparently, you are a country that decided bigotry and discrimination over unity and love. You chose that. You put that upon yourself. And even though maybe you individually, like maybe you yourself, you did not vote for Donald Trump. You voted for either a third party or you voted for Hillary Clinton. Like, even though you might have done that, you still live in a country that still decided to put him as president. Just remember that. And at this point, even though this might not sound necessarily pleasant, I'm sure a lot of you are probably wondering that the worst outcome has finally happened. The worst candidate in the history of America has now become president, and the country decided to put him there. Now what? That's pretty much the question that's pretty much plaguing everyone. Not just in the US, but all around the world. What can you do now? Well, I'll tell you what to do. What I want you to do is that I want you to continue what you are doing just like if nothing happened. Just continue what you are doing now. And at this point, now that Donald Trump is the new president, and that hatred will massively be on the rise, I want you to take a look at either like a book or a movie, or since this is the animation podcast, a piece of animation, whether it be like a Looney Tunes cartoon or like a Disney Mickey Mouse cartoon or anything like that, or even a video game. I want you to take that and you shall cherish it, because a slice of happiness is now going to be more valuable than it ever will be. That's the truth. We are at an age that now hatred is on a rise. We are going to be more dependent on trying to find happiness. That we need to have a bit of joy in the world, because it's easy to look upon how the country or how the rest of the world is going to be now, and it could be a cruel, cruel place. But now, just take a moment to just be happy, to continue what you are doing now and continue doing what you love. Like, even with me, I love animation, and I love talking about animation. I love watching animated films and making fun videos and all that kind of stuff. And this election is not going to stop me from doing what I love to do. So that's what I'm going to continue doing. I'm going to continue to talk about animation. I'm going to continue doing, to talk about fun videos. You know, I'm going to continue doing all of these things. It's not going to stop me, because this is what I love to do. And at this point, being happy is starting to be a lot more important. So I'm going to continue to do that. And I want you to do the same thing as well. Like, after listening to this, just go out and try to make yourself happy. No matter what it is. Even just hanging out with a friend. Or just to go have fun outside. No matter what it is. Any little thing that brings you joy, just do it. But there is a little bit of a warning. No matter what happens, in an age that we are entering upon, like I said, we are entering in a new age of humanity. Just be ready. No matter what happens, it could possibly happen. So just prepare yourself for whatever the outcome may be, no matter what kind of disaster may occur. But for now, just cherish what you enjoy. Continue what you're doing right now. Just go and have fun. But no matter what, be ready, be safe, and have fun. And that is pretty much all that I've got for this week, so I just want to say thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Animation Podcast. You can find more of my work at film-book.com. Just search for Mathieu Brunet or the Animation Podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at Animat505. And if you have listened to this podcast on iTunes or any other podcast service, do you mind doing us a little favor and go and rate and review this episode? That would be lovely. And if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, then hit that little like button on our video and leave us a little comment on your thoughts on the news this week. Tune in next week for the latest episode of the Animation Podcast and all things animation, and I promise you for the next one, it will all be animation, don't you worry. Thank you guys so much for listening, and until next week, see you later, dudes!